Hi, and welcome to the channel, in which I talk about significant historic events from the past. In this video, we'll be talking about Victory in Europe Day. Today, Britain remembers VE Day as a moment of victory and celebration, but in mainland Europe, memories are sometimes a little more complicated. On 8th of May 1945, huge crowds took to the streets to drink and dance the night away in Paris and Brussels, just as they did in London. But according to the French newspaper Libération, it was only the young who felt exuberant. Among the older generations there was, instead, an air of indefinable melancholy. In Rome, according to at least one witness, the atmosphere was sober and calm, even among the civilians. In a letter to his wife, shortly after the celebrations, Len Scott, a former journalist, claimed that despite a certain amount of feeble cheering, the celebrations in the Italian capital passed as uneventfully as a church parade. In some parts of Europe, there were no celebrations at all. In Prague, for example, the last German units did not surrender until the 9th of May. Amid continued fighting and chaos, there was no time for organised festivities. In parts of northern Yugoslavia, fighting continued for another week. One of the most vivid accounts of VE Day in mainland Europe was given by the French fighter pilot Pierre Clostermann, who was stationed in Fassberg in Germany when the armistice was announced. According to Clostermann, the mood on his airfield on 8th of May 1945 was downright gloomy. That evening in the mess hall was like some extraordinary vigil over a corpse, he later wrote. The pilots were slumped in their chairs, no one spoke a word or sang or anything. Late in the evening, someone turned on the wireless. The BBC was reporting on the celebrations in Trafalgar Square. All eyes turned towards the set, he said, and in them you could read a kind of hatred. Eventually someone threw a bottle at the wireless, smashing it, and one by one they all went to bed. The year 1945 was not only one of victory, it was also a time of extreme violence. In Belgium, it began with a massacre. The German army had just launched a massive counterattack against the Allies in the Ardennes, and returning SS units had committed a string of atrocities against soldiers and civilians alike. So on New Year's Day, some members of the US 11th Armoured Division decided to take their revenge. Near the village of Chenogne, they gathered together 60 or so German prisoners in a field and opened fire on them with machine guns. It was not an auspicious start to the year. Over the next 4 months, the Allies launched a series of offensives across Europe that were every bit as devastating as the German assault 5 years earlier. In January, they neutralised the German attack in the Ardennes. In February, they struck towards the heart of Germany, crossing the Rhine in late March. Shortly afterwards, in April, they launched separate attacks to liberate the northern parts of Italy and the Netherlands. Even more devastating was the war that was being waged in the air. By the beginning of 1945, the German Air Force had all but ceased to exist, and the Allies were able to bomb German cities almost unopposed. In February and March, the RAF and the US Air Force laid waste to dozens of cities, including Dresden, Pforzheim, and Wurzburg. The desolation caused by these attacks brought frequent comparisons to Armageddon. On seeing the devastation and destruction of Munich in 1945, Victor Klemperer declared, "It truly did almost make one think that the last Judgment Day, was imminent." By the end of April, it was obvious even to Hitler that there could be only one end to this war. The final straw came when his ally, Benito Mussolini, was captured in Italy. He was executed on the 28th of April and his body was put on display, hanging by his feet in a piazza in Milan. Not wishing to suffer the same fate, Hitler committed suicide 2 days later. He left instructions for his body to be burned. Over the next few days, a series of surrenders followed. Berlin fell on the 2nd of May. The German armies in northwest Europe surrendered to Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery on the 4th of May. On the 7th of May, in the French city of Reims, members of the German High Command signed an unconditional surrender of all German troops. The following day, shortly before midnight, a final definitive surrender was signed in Berlin. The war in Europe had formally come to an end. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content.